Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to briefly address the student body in regards to what I'm sure you've already heard about tomorrow, but we have canceled classes for the day tomorrow, and students are all going to be home, which I'm sure you guys are not upset about. And I just wanted to explain what we were thinking with the administration, from the administration's perspective when this decision was made yesterday afternoon, and also to squash any rumors that may be around. And the reality of the situation, ultimately, is that we have now tasked them with needing to prepare in the event that our school is forced to close. As of right now, we have no students that are sick. We have no students that we know of that have had exposure to the coronavirus. But as the news continues to break and as different directives come down from state authorities and the Department of Health, we need to be prepared in case we need to close. So our plan for tomorrow is to give teachers a day to plan and to really think, how would I go about my normal schedule if I had to migrate everything online? This is not the beginning of a 2-week close. This is not the reason to panic. It's really just a day for us to get everything organized and to give our teachers a chance to get ahead on their planning. So thank you in advance for your cooperation and flexibility. I hope you all get to sleep in tomorrow morning. And if you have any questions or any concerns, please feel free to come and see me or any member of the administration directly. Thank you guys so much and have an awesome day.
That's weird.
It was like something I had never experienced in my many years here at Don Bosco. We went into that faculty meeting expecting that we were going to be doing some more professional development, that school would continue to operate for a little bit longer, and I personally was sandbagged when I heard that today's our last day. It just, I will never forget. I went home and I sat down at the kitchen table and I just sat there. And my wife came down, she said, "Everything all right?" I said, "Not really. We were just told that we will not be in session for the foreseeable future." And it was shocking. It was absolutely, absolutely shocking.
Last year, you were talking about how everything was rolling along. I remember when I first became president, we started off with the Rudy event that we had up the hill, which was great. And then we walked into the football season. We had a couple of signature wins, and we wound up, out at Giant Stadium in the final game. And the place was just really cooking.
And then later on the same drive, on third down, a screen pass, we'll see Berger get inside the St. Joe's 5-yard line.
You're right. We were having a great year. School was running super smoothly. Everyone was getting their feet wet. It was the first year that was the shift of director-president role, and we had a new principal set in place.
Whether you were a first-year teacher or a 40th-year teacher, didn't matter. That was an experience that none of us were trained for. None of us were trained for. That Wednesday night, the 11th, I remember thinking, this is a much more serious situation than I would have ever expected. For the NBA in March to shut down its season is unheard of. And so I came back in and I said to Mr. Fazio, I've got some serious concerns here. I don't know, how big of an impact this is going to be, but I think it may be bigger than we were initially planning for.
I remember that day and that entire span. I think the biggest moment for me had to be that last day we were all in Savio Hall. And I remember this feeling I was getting in my stomach, like just these total knots.
We made the decision that on Thursday, the kids were gonna have the day off. It was around lunchtime, and we were all in Savio cafeteria. And I got up in front of them and I said, listen, we're not going to be here tomorrow, and we're not going to be here on Monday.
Looking at that moment, those 3 days from the Wednesday to Friday, like those 3 days changed the course of our future.
Sure. And you bring me way back a year ago, and there was a real sense of, certainly of apprehension of what would this mean for us. Because things are very fluid at the moment and uncertain. Yes. Well, those were challenging months.
Now it wasn't up for negotiation. Now we had to pivot because the only way we were going to be able to provide the academic support to our students was by being able to Zoom with them. tremendous amount of fear and a tremendous amount of anxiety. And I think as a leader, part of my job was just to make sure that everybody was calm and remained calm and upbeat, you know, that we couldn't control this and that it was going to be a year of pivoting and a year of flexibility. It was only a couple week kind of situation in my mind. But then as we saw how this thing unraveled and the sickness and it began to spread, and we saw the magnitude of how long we were going to be remote, it just became more and more apparent that it was going to be long term.
Well, the transition was, it was pretty overwhelming. Particularly those of us, the older faculty members, had to get up to speed with using technology, and technology that we really weren't conversant with. The learning curve for, you know, getting up to speed with setting up a Google Hangout, learning how to do that, and just learning all of the mechanics of setting those things up. As I say, it was a steep learning curve. But the other thing that made it difficult was that, you know, you're doing all this at a time when there was a great deal of concern about the health and safety of everybody in the school, the students, faculty members, staff members, families of everyone.
Everybody kind of said to me, Ms. V, we need to do DBP News as a way to keep the school connected. And I went over with the students about ways that we can make it fun and engaging and keep our community connected. And a lot of faculty members took part. Ms. Hollymug showed us how she does her push-ups, I believe, that she did. Mr. Moore dressed up as the Easter Bunny.
Again, this was a boarding school. There was the flu pandemic or influenza pandemic. One of the Salesians here, the youngest Salesian who founded the school just 3 years before in 1915, that he had passed away from that in a hospital. He was the youngest of them, Father Michael Wodziak, and I think he had been ordained a priest only a year when he died, yeah.
You know, I was waiting for the governor's, you know, State of the Union, so to speak, back then, and kind of anticipated that that's the direction that they will go in, and use common sense, which isn't always common, but during a pandemic, I've been trying to use a lot of good common sense techniques, and wanted to make sure we had a statement out the same day. Because I thought when we have statements that came out and that were around all those decisions that were being made, people knew we had our act together. You know, was I disappointed? And of course I was.
I'm here this morning on campus sharing with you some sad news that school will be closed for the remainder of the school year.
Certain videos, like the one you're referencing from May 15th, you know, during the rendering period, I'm sitting there sobbing.
For the seniors last year, when, you know, their year had to get cut short, it was a little bit disheartening, because I know that the last couple of months of your senior year are always like some of the most fun. Like some of my most fond memories of being a student here were in those last couple of months.
What's happened to all of you in your experience with your high school career is sad, and it hurts us to see this, and the emotional part of this whole thing is still going to be played out. That's why we believe there's nothing better than being in person here. One of the things that I was really proud of that we did, that was a signature kind of COVID thing, was go out and deliver. Our teachers went out and delivered, and our administrators and our Salesian fathers went out and delivered all those lawn signs to every single senior that was graduating.
Teachers surprised students with the lawn signs, which we special ordered for every single student. And I think that that's actually something that was really amazing. So we sent out a list of every single senior to the faculty and said, if anyone is available and willing to volunteer to go and drop these off to do a blitz on this particular day, would you mind signing up? Within 2 hours, every single student had somebody signed up.
And the signs, that was a big deal. In some cases, that's the first time that a senior had seen a faculty member in probably, I don't know, months.
On the campus. And I remember I was out at the front And I remember crying with emotion of just happiness that our boys got to come back on the campus for one last time and drive around. And I was crying because I saw our teachers and our staff clapping and the signs that were being held up and just the general love and the camaraderie that existed.
And it was a very emotional experience, to see each car drive up with family members in it, being greeted by members of the administration first, coming around, and then all, doing the loop around the property. And it was good. It was good to see them. It was good to, for the families and the students to see us.
It was very important to me, that we had some type of closure. I think it was important to all of us that we had some type of closure.
The state said that you could not have outdoor graduations. You couldn't have any graduations of the like,
When we looked at the idea of having graduation, we knew that last summer we were limited to 500 people. Now, if you took the senior class, roughly 200, and you added their parents to each, you've already maxed that out, right? So then we had questions like, do we have one parent? And automatically we were like, we can't do that. It's not gonna work.
But you could have religious services. So Don Bosco was always a creative thinker, and we tried to be creative as well. And we understood that, well, if we had a baccalaureate mass, which is part of the graduation ceremonies every year, if we had a baccalaureate mass outdoors.
We'd merge the baccalaureate mass and the graduation together. I thought it was really important that our boys get to come back on this campus and have some type of closure.
So many of the really memorable events associated with the end of senior year that were taken away from the students. You think about seniors who were, some of them who had played a sport here for 4 years, and baseball was taken away, or some of the other, lacrosse. I mean, it was very, very difficult. And I give the senior class credit. They handled it with as much grace as you hope they would under the circumstances. Just understanding that this is militated or it's dictated by by something that is going on that is of a magnitude that the school can't control it. But to the administration's credit, they did pull these things off.
We sat down as an administrative team in Savio Hall, and I was just talking to the faculty about this yesterday, that there were 15 of us going around the table, and I made sure every single person got the opportunity to talk. When we reopen, should every student be on this campus together? And every single person that went around said yes. We've had a lot of loss. We've had a lot of sickness. We've had a lot of disruption. We've had a lot of uncertainty. We still have uncertainty. But the thing I think we have is resilience.
You never appreciate what you have until it's gone. It's true. But I think this did a very good job of teaching people to be present. We learned a lot about how we can keep coming up with new ways to keep things moving forward in a way that's going to keep building stronger connection, because there was so much of it that was lost. And through the staggering amount of loss that we've, as a country have experienced through all of, the pandemic, is that now it's building from what we have, so that way we don't have to experience this much of a grief and a loss anymore.
We're going to remain in person. We're going to remain with our sports open. We're going to have a graduation. The boys are going to jump in the pond this year. We're going to have our play. We're going to have our senior awards. We are going to have a Bosco champ before this school ends, around the quad. We are going to get back to normal before this year ends. And I firmly have that hope. And I think that hope is in the sun being out today, and the snow is finally melting, and spring is in the air, and the clock is going to move ahead, and we're going to have more light as the spring and the flowers blossom. and we're going to say it was behind us, and we were able to navigate through it under very difficult circumstances, but we're Ironmen and we take the challenge, no matter what it is. We face it and we move ahead with it.